Hi, this is Dr. Dan Ratner. Today I am joined once again by Antonella, and this time for the power column session of our mind-body consultation. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and we'll get back to you personally. And finally, you can reserve your place in one of my seminars or purchase any of my mind-body guides, also known as the PDFs, at www.crushingdoubt.org. Check out our website for our latest promotions and opportunities. And now, without further ado, here is my conversation on the power column with Antonella. Antonella, thank you so much for joining me again. It's exciting to be back here. I feel like each time we meet, we discover lots of new things. One of the things I wanted to acknowledge, though, is you emailed me saying, oh, my God, there's a lot happening here. So I wondered if you could just fill me in on that oh, my God email and my response to it and your thoughts, and then I'll take off from there because I know where to go.
Yeah, I just feel like even though like when the doubt creeps in or when these thoughts come in of like, I'll never get better or this has just gone too far. And then I there is a logical thought, but then it's like, no. It's different for you, Antonella. No way. This is just not going to happen. So then fear just takes over. And that was what was like, and then it was like, what do I do? And that's how I felt.
I totally get it. You're not alone in this. I'm sure lots of people who are watching this can really identify with this. It happens all the time. What I want to do is describe to you how I understand that, and then I want to get into how the power column can actually help you with this, because the power column is a big deal when it comes to that kind of setup. It's one of the reasons that the column's there at all, is because so often this is the kind of thing that happens. So the first thing that I want to say is, even though it may feel that fear and doubt just keeps coming at you and it feels like it's never going to stop, I'm sure you do recognize this, but I want to point it out anyway. Do you recognize that that's a doubt in and of itself?
Yeah.
Like it's its own doubt.
Yep. And that's why I get like that when I wrote at the end. I'm like, like yes. It's like a cycle.
So that's kind of something that I would kind of call meta doubt. It's like at a whole other level. It's the bird's eye view of doubt, where you're not only having doubts, but you're having doubts whether you can stop doubting.
Yes. Yeah.
And that goes right into the power column. So this is actually perfect for the session today. You were saying, oh, I wish there was a light switch or, to flip to change this. And the power column is that switch. Okay. Now, as I describe it to you, that doesn't mean you will have full access to that switch at the end of this session today, although you might. There can be big breakthroughs. Okay. But it's more that we're building a system that already knows about the problem you're talking about and has something that we can do about it. The power column is that thing. Because in a way, you're describing what I would call level 3 doubt. I'm not sure I can do this. There's something different about me that you even said. It's not true for you, Antonella, right? That's level 3 doubt. And although we located it in the doubt column, the solution comes in the power column. So here's why. I'm just going to explain the basics of that, and then we'll dive in. The reason that the power column provides the solution for this is that your doubts, when they're level 3 doubts, you have to be able to resolve your feelings about you. And that is where the power column shows up best and really does its best work, is in actually resolving the doubts about you. And I want to say something to you. This is really important. Okay. I've said this before many times, but I got to say it again. I had 20 years of therapy or more. Didn't move the needle at all when it came to this stuff. Not at all. Right. So I was going over and over the same stuff. Right. And I can appreciate how stuck it would feel. And then when I started getting better from my symptoms and I started recognizing the power element to it, things shifted dramatically. I started to be able to live a totally different life that no matter what had happened in therapy, it wasn't getting there. And listen, I would say, as good as therapy can be for people, right, that's partly because the current therapy world, in large measure, has a lot of limitations on what they're offering.
Right. I agree.
I'm always good. And I'm about offering new information. So the new information is for us to pinpoint very, very specifically what is your trauma, so that you can see it much more clearly than you would in a therapy setup, where it kind of meanders and you got kind of a general idea of it. We're going to get a very specific idea of it.
Okay.
Some of that might come today. Some of it might be follow-up next time. Some of it might be follow-up within my system in some kind of setup of the resources that I have.
Okay.
And in fact, I have some new things coming out for people, new ways of helping people, so we can talk about that too. No matter what, I will find you options that work. So just put that aside for the time being, okay? Because I really want this to work. But the step we're on is exactly where we need to be for the power column.
Okay.
So there are 2 parts to the power column now that we're going to work on. One is getting your core narrative set. Your core narrative is a description of the essence of you when it comes to suffering. What happened to you? And it's 3 sentences. The first sentence is, what happened to you in terms of that trauma? I talk about accepting the fullness of your trauma. This exercise can help you do that. You might need to hear it from me for you to really grasp it, which is exactly what therapy is not offering to people. They're busy trying to listen to you, which is good overall, but you need input. You need it to be pinpointed, you need it to be sharp, and you need it to be accurate.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to do that. The first sentence is, what happened to you? The second sentence is, how did it impact you? And the third sentence, which you'll have no idea about yet, is, what are you going to do about it? So set that aside. The third sentence is not actually that important yet.
Okay.
We first have to get those first 2 sentences, and it's the first sentence that's really the thrust of the core narrative. So we're going to do that. The whole idea behind the core narrative is it gives you kind of like an emotional mantra that you can compare to whatever's happening in your present day life and kind of ask yourself, is this fitting with my core narrative? Is it going right along with all the torturous experiences I've had before? Because if it is, that's not good. And alternatively, is there something I can do to make sure it does not go this way? Let's say, I'm not saying this is true for you, but let's say somebody has felt silenced their whole lives, and that's part of their core narrative, and they're feeling silenced in the moment. Well, now you have much more permission to say, this is not a small deal. This is like the center of everything. I must not be silent here. And then you can start to think about, well, all right, how am I going to voice myself? Which is sentence 3. But in any case, you're comparing the present day to this core narrative. It's very organizing for what you're going to need to do.
Okay.
And one of the reasons it's going to help so much with doubt is it's going to help you value yourself at a whole new level, which is a weapon you need against doubt.
Yep.
Otherwise, doubt just can get at you. It can tell you, Antonella, you're not that great anyway.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what it's doing. So as soon as we can get you to value yourself at a whole new level, it's a different ballgame. And you do not need to do it by yourself. Just go through the exercise of it, okay? I know that's a tall order, but I got your back, literally and figuratively. So that's half of the power column. The other half is that we're going to start measuring whether you feel in power at any given moment in your relationship with yourself, with others, and with your symptoms. And I say this pretty much every time I work with anybody. When they come to see me, they are not in power with their symptoms. That's a guarantee. So don't feel you have to be in power in any of these areas. Not yet. It's more going to be a bit of a practice, and we'll start on it today, but we'll continue it next week as well when we get into action steps. What are you going to do to enact each of these columns and be able to use them at different times? So let's dive right in on the core narrative, okay? What we need to do is come up with that first sentence. And that first sentence is about the essence of your suffering. Now, I have some ideas based on what we talked about. And one thing, just as a guide point, we're going to use the information we got in this first sentence from the emotions column.
Okay.
The first sentence is a mashup of all of those themes. If you could get it into one sentence, it can be a long sentence. That's okay. We want to sum it up. So can you give it a try, or do you need me to take a stab at it first? I will, but I guarantee you we will not start off getting it completely right, at least not usually.
Right? Yeah, I don't know, because right when you said what happened to you, I'm like, felt like saying like, well, what didn't happen to me? Right?
Right. But okay, remember how I talk
Yeah.
about you start off broad and then you get
Yeah.
specific. That's what we did in the
Yeah.
emotions column. We do it
Yeah.
here too. So what's the broad thing? I'm going to give you some examples. It's kind of
Yeah.
like I'm giving you a piece of clay and you get to mold it. It could be that the central part of your whole core narrative is that you've never, ever felt safe. I'm pretty sure that has some relevance to you, if not right on the money, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and it's the same thing I say all the time, so I'm not even sure why it didn't even come up, but I say it all the time, like it's natural. Well, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel like a good idea, right? I'm always, you're right. And I didn't, especially as a child, right?
Yeah.
That was a big one.
So we're already starting to mold this. Sentence 1 is going to have something to do with safety, but here's my question. Are there other big, big, big broad topics that need to be brought in? I do have one idea at least.
Okay.
Let me share that. Oh, go ahead. You.
Yeah. So safe and not good enough.
Safe and not good enough. Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm going to take some notes on this while we go because it can be helpful. Okay. We've got safe and not good enough. This is a good start already. Not a good start in how it feels, obviously. But these are to me, they feel like, yeah, those are the two poles. I want to add one piece to it based on what we talked about in the emotions column.
Okay.
Confusion was playing a big role. To me, it feels like that belongs here. Almost like it's a way of describing the lack of safety a little bit more accurately, and that's where we move from broad to specific. Right? So I'm going to say not safe. Do we want to say because everything is confusing about me and other people?
Yes.
Okay. Because everything is confusing about me and other people. Okay. Okay. Does that capture, and you're the one who will know, you'll know if it clicks and feels right. Does that capture the not safe feeling? Like if I could take away all confusion and you felt like you had a razor sharp idea of why everything happens, would you then feel safe?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. But see, do you see how important this is? I mean,
yeah.
We just nailed one of two hugely broad topics and the specifics of it. And I got it from the emotions column work we did. I would not have known that if I hadn't met you for that session, right? And this is part of how I can be helpful. I hear the material and I'm like, oh, I got it. you know, It's hard for everybody to do that on their own.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would never. And it's also hard, I think, because it becomes so natural that that's just what you think is so normal that you don't realize it, right? Like
exactly. You're too close to it. You're living it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what else. When you work with a therapist and you're kind of you're in an exploratory mode and things are meandering, it's very easy to get lost and never come out of that confusion.
Yes. Yeah.
One of the reasons I love the core narrative is it's like, no. We're not going there. We're not going there. We're not going there. We are staying very central to what really matters here. I mean, we could get into specifics of how you feel safe and things like that, but that's not actually going to be as useful to you as getting this down. A very clear picture of what's happening and why. Right? I can see it's resonating with you. Okay, so let me jump back. I feel like we've got the not safe aspect nailed. Now I want to get the not good enough aspect nailed. Why haven't you felt good enough? What's the central thing that is? It could be, and remember, start broad. It could be I never felt fully loved, or it could have been the people who I was depending on were so wrapped up in themselves that they couldn't see me, or
Yeah. Right. Like that resonates with me. Like I feel like it's almost like maybe it's not that I wasn't good enough. Maybe I just wasn't heard. Like I just feel like I was small.
so I'm gonna say you have to tell me if this is right. Again, you will know. It'll feel like it
Okay.
clicks.
Yeah.
Um, I do think you carry around a feeling with you that you're not good enough, but I think
Yeah.
you're right. I don't think the thrust of it is that you actually think you're not good enough. I think you got a message you weren't good enough,
Yes. Yes.
and it was because you weren't heard
Right.
over and over. Does that feel
Yeah,
accurate?
like I could just, yeah, because all I'm just visioning like was me as a child is like sort of like tugging like at my mom, getting trying to get some attention, and just and then like to my dad and to my brothers, and it's like I'm like a little fly, like just flicker out of the way.
Right. Oh man, that hurts. So let me say it back to you. Make sure I got it right. This part of the sentence one would be: I felt not good enough because that was the message I received by not being heard. Do we want to add like not heard, seen, and validated? Like
Yeah.
we can kind of broaden it a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, by anyone in your life? I don't know. How far does it extend?
I feel like family, like that's, yeah.
So we're going to say my family. Okay, now I'm going to read back to you what I have for sentence one. I actually have another question before I do this. Safety is something that you feel in the external world and in the internal world.
Mm-hmm.
And my sense is that you don't feel it in either place.
No.
Right? So I like to pinpoint that because I'm trying to show you the full extent of your trauma, right? Everybody has trauma. Lowercase t, capital T, whatever we want to call it. Everybody's got it. I'm trying to describe it very accurately so that it's very punchy. And you can always go back to it and be like, that first sentence of the core narrative, this thing is going to drive you having a better relationship with you. It's going to be the most empathic thing you've ever heard. That's what it's supposed to be. And if it's not quite there yet, then we keep shaping it. But here's what I have basically so far. I have always felt not safe inside. I'm going to say internally and externally. Okay? Because we're trying to represent as much as we can in one sentence. Because everything has been confusing about me and other people. And I could never be sure what was real. I don't know. Does that feel right? Okay. This is good. Give me 1 second. Okay. And, in addition, you see how long this sentence is. It doesn't bother me that it's long. It doesn't bother me that it's long because what's going to happen is once you've got it in your mind and you really see crystal clear what it is, you can condense it. I mean, in your head, it could just be not safe inside and out, confusing, not good enough, not validated.
Yeah.
Boom, you're done. That could be your mantra that you keep in mind. And it's very real. This happened to you. So I would say, and in addition, I felt not good enough because that was the message I received by not being heard, seen, and validated by my family. I want to check with something though before.
Okay.
Like I think we've got this sentence pretty well. Does it feel like it represents the core you? Good. One question I have is, does it hit your emotions at all?
Yes.
Okay, it should.
That's why I was able to give you that like yes, because as you read it, I had pictures in my head already of that. Yeah.
Because I'm going to read it to you again, and I'm going to read it to you with the full empathy of it. Because this was not good. This was very hard. So I have always felt not safe inside and outside because everything has been confusing about myself and other people, and I could never be sure what was real. And in addition, I felt not good enough because that was the message I received by not being heard, seen, and validated by my family. And I'm going to add something: over and over again. Okay. Did we get it? Okay. Now, this is very important. This is very important for a number of reasons. And I have this written down, so I'll send it to you. One of the reasons this is so important is that the reason you have level 3 doubt is because of this. You got hammered by this stuff. And this was so bad for you. Now, when we get to sentence 3, you're going to be glad. Because what we're going to do is I'm going to help you fight for yourself. In a way, for the first time in your whole life. I want to make sure you understand what I mean by that, because this is what the core narrative is all about. I don't think you've ever been fully empathic to yourself. I'm not saying that critically of you. I don't think you had a chance.
No, you're right.
There was too much confusion and lack of safety and not feeling good to even take the time to sit with yourself and be like, what happened to me?
Yep.
You've been through a lot. Okay, so bear with me here. I'm going to keep going through the system because it's going to get us some things. Sometimes I get tempted to stay with the feeling of it because I care and because I hate that this happened to you and because it's important that you start to feel it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get away from it too much. But I think in doing this exercise, I think you'll see it stays right with it.
Okay.
Okay? So the second sentence is, what impact did this have on you? Look, this wreaked havoc for you. And I want you just to describe the ways that it did.
Just made me just uncertain in life with everything, though. Like it impacted how I did in school. It impacted the decisions I made. Like what? I had to work hard in school. I wasn't like super smart, but I loved school, but I always didn't give myself the credit that I needed or that I deserved. Or like, for example, going to post-secondary, I said, well, I wanted to be a psychologist. And I said, well, no way. I wouldn't be able to handle that. I wouldn't be able to handle the work. I wouldn't be able to handle the workload. So, because I'm not good enough for that. I'm not smart enough for it. I'm not like so-and-so. So that really, really made, same with like when I had to get my driver's license. Well, I'm like my mom doesn't, at the time she wasn't driving. So I'm going to be like her. I'm not going to drive because, well, women don't drive, or women shouldn't have to drive, or it was just all these things impacted me in the decisions I made.
And it sounds like they often made you choose to not go for what you wanted.
Right.
Yeah. I'm writing that down. Okay. Well, that's a big deal. We can see how much this has been impacting you. Now, ultimately, when we get to sentence 3, you're not going to make those choices anymore. That's part of what we're going to change. We got to get you to be fiercely in your own corner, as I say, and no more of that. We'll get to that. But so far, it impacted your belief in yourself so much that you couldn't have as easy a time in school. It altered your career path away from psychology, and it led you to not choose to go for what you wanted, at least in the professional arena. What happened in your relationships?
I was always trying to please. I didn't come first, my needs, my wants. It was always me trying to please all the time with all my relationships.
Okay. And what did that lead to?
It led to me feeling resentful and I don't know about unhappy, but sort of like,
don't shy away from that.
Okay.
If it's unhappy,
that's what came up.
This is an opportunity for you to be more in your own corner. Don't you deserve to say you were unhappy about it?
Yeah. Yeah. So like unhappy and I don't know how to describe it. Just sort of like small, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say not able to take up my own space.
Yeah, you know, like it just didn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. And is there anything else you want to get in there about what it did to your life? Because we don't have to be wed to 3 sentences. The sentences are ideas. You know, if it gets to 2 sentences, fine. You know, we just need to get the right ideas in there. So far, we have that it altered your belief in yourself, or it hindered your belief in yourself, altered your career path, led you to be a people pleaser that left you resentful, unhappy, and feeling like you didn't matter.
Yeah.
How else did it impact you? Or maybe that covers it.
It might be that. It might be what covers it. I feel like right now that's what covers it.
Okay. So I just want to say, just for organization, so you can keep it in your mind what it is we're doing. That first sentence got the broad picture. It got the broad picture of what happened to you. The second sentence gets more of the specifics about what it did to you. How did it impact you? So I'm going to read you what I have. And I want you to think about that this really happened to you.
Okay.
This, meaning the first sentence, that experience. This impacted my belief in myself at school and made it harder, altered my career path away from, would you want to say my true passion? I don't, okay. Because the more powerful the language, the better the core narrative. Okay.
Yeah.
So altered my career path away from my true passion. And convinced me to not choose to go for what I wanted. I'm going to leave that actually as its own sentence. I'm breaking my own rules a little bit here. We're going to have a second sentence here, but it's a second sentence, okay? The other one was, in addition, I put my needs on the back burner. I don't know. We need to think about the way to phrase it so it's the most powerful for you. But I put my needs, or maybe it's I always put the needs of others first. What's more powerful for you?
I always put the needs of others first.
That's what I thought. Yep. I always put the needs of others first. Always trying to please them. Would you say at all costs?
I think so.
Okay. That's the kind of thing that I like to add in because it makes it punchier. It really captures how bad this was.
Yeah, I think so.
Should we say at all costs to myself?
Yeah, because I'm just getting the visuals again, right? And
that's a good sign. So at all costs to myself. I'm going to back up and say this again. In addition, I always put the needs of others first, always trying to please them at all costs to myself. leading to my feeling deeply resentful. I'm going to say this. I don't know if it's true. You have to tell me.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I would make this punchier, and I wouldn't just say unhappy. You know, you wanted to back off from unhappy, and I'm the opposite. I want to go to profoundly
Okay.
unhappy. You could say in certain ways if you want. But I do think it was pretty profound. But you have to tell me.
And I think what has my hesitation is, again, me always trying to like be, well, maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe it wasn't that I wasn't that unhappy, or maybe it's just me being too much, right? Like, see, like the guilt of me feeling those
Yeah.
that
So
feeling,
here's the
right?
thing. When we do the core narrative, we got to keep everything out.
Right.
All guilt. There is no consideration of anyone else. There's no measured. We're not saying this in a measured way. We're saying this like we are Viking warriors attacking something. Like there's no hesitation. So I want you to forget that temporarily and say this in the most powerful way. So let's get back to it. In addition, I always put the needs of others first, trying to please them at all costs to myself, leading me to feel deeply resentful. I would say profoundly unhappy in many ways. I don't want to force that on you, but I think that's accurate. I'll put in many ways if you need to.
In many ways, yeah.
Temper it a little bit, or make it more accurate, because you're not profoundly unhappy in every way, right? Remember, this is a definition of your suffering self. It's not a definition of everything that you are.
Right.
Okay, so leading to me to my feeling deeply resentful, profoundly unhappy in many ways, and like I did not matter and couldn't take up any space. Now, this is interesting, too, because when I heard that, couldn't take up any space, I wonder if you know what I thought of. You might not. I'll spare you having to guess.
Okay.
You talked about weight issues. And there's something in there. I'm not saying you would want to be heavy or anything like that, but there's something in there where you're like trying to make yourself so small, not noticeable, nothing like that, and which has nothing to do with actual weight.
Right.
It's just a metaphor. So let me ask you, did we capture it? Have we gotten the broad experience of what happened to you and the more specific experience of how it impacted you?
Right. I think so, yeah.
Feels good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now comes the third sentence. And the third sentence is always something that I basically assign. It's not something that you would really know how to construct. If you did, you probably wouldn't be suffering as you are.
Okay.
But I will tell you, the job of the third sentence is to bring the empathy your way in an active way. What are you going to do about it? So we have a couple of problems in here. You're feeling unsafe and confused all the time. You're feeling not good enough because of the messages you received. And then you're having some specific things, like your career path was altered. You're left in resentment. You feel like you don't matter. You're people-pleasing. We don't have to get that specific in this third sentence. In fact, we return to the broad picture. You can get more specific in your action steps later. But let's get to the broad thing. So in a way, question 3 answers question 1 more than anything. How are we going to help you feel safer, less confused, and good enough? And if you don't know, that's okay, because I'll give you a place to start.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a place to start. I'm going to say, now that I understand this, which I want to say, you may not even fully understand it right now, but as you continue to think about this core narrative and recognize it really is you, I'm going to say, now that I understand the fullness of my trauma, because that's really what this is all about. I'm going to ask which is the most powerful way of saying this. Would it be I am determined to do this, or I pledge to not betray myself, that kind of thing. What's the language we want?
I'm determined.
I am determined. I am determined. We need something more powerful than that. How can you be more? I am completely determined. I'm you might not be yet, by the way. This is just something we're aspiring to. You don't have to have it yet.
And what was the other one that you were thinking? What other word?
I was thinking that I'm like, I didn't like the way I phrased it, so I'll just throw it out. It was about pledging something to yourself.
Right.
The way I have mine phrased is essentially, I didn't feel valid. That was my top kind of first sentence one. So I decided in sentence 3 that I would never put myself in that position again. Ever. Never ever. These are big, powerful words.
Yeah.
So I would say we could use I'm determined, but I am determined to never subject myself to a lack of safety that I can control. Obviously, there's going to be things you can't control,
right.
But to me, that takes care of what you're going to do about safety. I know there are specifics that we've got to get to, but that's the general gist. I'll never subject myself to a lack of safety that I can control. I will work to gain full clarity on things to eradicate confusion. To eradicate any confusion. Remember, this is aspirational, so we're going to be as strong as possible. Okay, now we got to deal with not feeling good enough. What are you going to do? Well, let me ask you a question, actually.
Yeah.
If I could get you, I'm not even saying today, but if I could get you to accept this core narrative and actually fully empathize with yourself, wouldn't that make you feel good enough? It's okay if not, but I want to get a sense of that.
I don't know.
Well, see if you can imagine this.
Yeah.
See if you can imagine that you see what happened to you, and there's no conflict about it. You simply hate that it happened to you. You actually love yourself. And you're going to protect yourself from now on. Would you then feel good enough?
Yeah.
Does that feel right in you?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's our answer. It doesn't mean we know how we're going to do it yet.
Right.
Okay, so I will work to gain full clarity on things to eradicate any confusion, and I often say the phrase, be fiercely in your own corner. It's a way that people can connect to this. We could put it in yours. I think that's what we're asking for.
Okay, yeah.
So does that fit with you? Okay. And I will be fiercely in my own corner. I do say this a lot, so it sounds like we apply it to many people, but you got to remember, this is specific to you. You're going to be fiercely in your corner. It matters. So, and I will be fiercely in my own corner to empathize with the depth of how punishing life has sometimes been, and make sure to take steps to protect myself as ferociously as possible. Okay. Does that feel right to you? I know you don't know how to do it yet.
Right.
That's okay. Okay, so we've got a great core narrative here. We could tweak it some. Okay. And I'm going to send it to you so you have it. I don't expect you to believe this yet. But we saw sentence 1 especially really got you.
Yeah.
You're going to need to spend time on sentence 1 before you rush to sentence 3. Please do not rush to sentence 3. We will get there. The first thing you're going to do is work on accepting that trauma. And that's sentence 1 and some of sentence 2 also. Some very big things happen to you because of this. And, I'm always reminded of, in the movie Good Will Hunting, the therapist says, it's not your fault. And he's like, yeah, I know. And he just keeps saying, it's not your fault. And he's like, yeah, I know. And the more he says it, the more emotional it becomes.
Right.
This is that moment.
Right.
None of this was your fault. I won't necessarily put you through the whole treatment because you may not want that, but I can. You've actually had it really hard. And again, one thing that doesn't tend to happen in therapy so much is they might help you, they might empathize with you at a given moment, but they don't stick on it so intently as I do. Like, I won't move off of this. If you could tell me about little things, and I'd be like, no, we're staying on this. This is it. Okay, so that's how we're going to use the core narrative, and we'll talk more about it. When you are settled with this, which would not likely be today,
okay,
but as you work at it, level 3 doubt is going to be gone. Because you'll recognize level 3 doubt is actually you enacting the same crap that was dumped on you by other people. That's all it is. Tell me what you're thinking.
I don't know. It just amazes me. Like, it just, all this, because it makes so much sense. Mm-hmm. It makes so much sense.
Right. Well, again, I think that therapists, I somewhat hesitant to say it because I don't mean to sound critical of therapy or therapists, but
right.
I think that they are not being brave enough on behalf of their patients. They're not jumping in there and saying,
no, you're right.
Like, they'll empathize with you.
Right.
But they won't say, God damn it, I'm not going to let this happen to you.
Yeah, you're right. It's true.
I did a podcast on the importance of getting angry on people's behalf. I've never felt so taken care of as when people get angry on my behalf. I am pissed that this happened to you. And we're going to work to change it. I know we may have our work cut out for us in certain ways. I don't care. I don't care.
Okay.
We have it. We have exactly what went wrong, and we have exactly what needs to happen, at least in the broad details. I know we've got to get the specifics. So we're on a very good path. But now I'm going to add in one more thing, because this is the other part of power column work.
Okay.
We have to help you recognize when you feel in power or not, with yourself, with others, and with your symptoms. So I'm going to ask you right now, do you feel in power right now? And you might feel in power in some ways and not others. You might feel not in power at all. You might feel very in power. I think you will feel more in power than you did at the beginning of the session, because that's what the core narrative does.
Right. Yeah, I would say like a little bit yes and a little bit no.
So tell me about how yes. Let's start with the good stuff.
I don't know how to explain it, but it just feels like, it's like, this is it. This is right. This is it, and this was real. It wasn't made up. And right. So like,
nothing to be confused about.
Right. I was about to drop an F-bomb there. So I was just like, it's like
take up
yeah, like this was real, and that's right. And that's where the empowerment comes in. It's like, this is not made up shit. This is what I felt and feel.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, as weird as that sounds, I don't know how that can feel empowering, I guess, to someone, but to be able to articulate it.
Yes. And to stop wondering, was it true or not? This
right.
Is
or valid enough to, right? So that's where the empowerment comes in. And then not feeling empowered, I think it's not that I don't feel, it's not, it's like there's still a little bit of the confusion, and there's still a little bit of the not feeling safe, and
Sure.
there's that, right? There's that,
Yeah.
keeps creeping in.
So let me say this. Power column work, certainly in one session, isn't expected to make you feel powerful all the time. In fact, we're moment-to-moment beings in all three columns. So you're going to be a moment-to-moment being in the power column too, even after this. There are going to be times where you'll forget this core narrative altogether.
Right.
But now it's there to remind you. And you can come back to it. So what we want to do is recognize if we've slipped out of power in some way, we can get back into it.
Yeah.
Let's say you start to feel like, I don't know, was that real? Well, you can remember, I've given you my full stamp of authority as a very different kind of therapist. That absolutely did happen. Everything we said here was completely accurate. Doubt's going to try to convince you it's not, because it's going to try to take you down any way it can.
Yeah.
But if you are protecting yourself as ferociously as possible, as we said at the end of sentence 3, are you going to let doubt do that to a person like you who has been through hell and back for no fault of her own? Is that fair? Doubt is unfair.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. Well, two can play at that game. We can beat the shit out of doubt. And that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And when you feel that determination, when you feel that energy, which you will at certain moments more than others, you might need reassurance from me. And listen, there's a guy that I was working with. I helped him reduce his symptoms a lot, but every once in a while he'll send me a message and be like, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling discouraged. I'm feeling this. And I'll write him back and be like, do you recognize this is doubt? It has crept back in this form. And he's always like, thank you. I'm fine now. And goes right back on his way. So you can get reassurance from me.
Okay.
We are going to keep hammering away at this. And what you're going to do now is you're going to let this core narrative soak in. And you're going to start assessing the moments. And you're going to have unpowerful moments. I do too. It's just that now, if I have an unpowerful moment, I can recognize what it is.
Right.
And I can because it's categorized as with myself, others, or symptoms, I can even recognize where is that lack of power. And I can even get more specific. Oh, it was with that person because it was this kind of interaction.
Gotcha.
And then I can set new rules for myself. What's the powerful move here? Sometimes the powerful move is to say something. Sometimes the powerful move is to know there's no reason to say anything to this person. I can just dismiss them in my own mind.
Right.
Whatever is going to make you powerful.
Right.
And you have to get determined that you deserve power in your own life. You never deserved any of this crap. Everyone deserves power. In the way I define it. Okay, now listen. Doubt is going to try to mess with you. It will.
Yeah.
But you're stronger than you were at the beginning of the session by a lot,
Sure.
I would say. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter what I think. But I see it in you.
No, you're right. And even you saying that just brings more awareness about the doubt. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like you just reminded me, like, no, I'm not letting that happen.
Right.
Yep.
Well, this is one of the things that we talked about in the email you sent me and the one I sent back to you today. I was saying to you, hey, this is not actually bad news that you're seeing how much doubt there is.
Okay.
What it is instead, doubt is actually in deep trouble. It's been very fully exposed. We even have the power column answer to it, at least in its general form. Doubt is screwed. It's in a lot of trouble. And even if you don't feel it right now, it doesn't matter.
Right. Okay.
Because I have the information to get you there. Also, you have a lot of the information. You're not going to need me as much as you think, but I am.
Right. Right. And I get that. I can see how that can happen.
Yep.
And will happen.
Good. I like that. I
Right?
saw you even catch yourself. You were like, it can happen, but then you added it will happen. See, that's a power column adjustment.
Yeah.
You just did that.
Yeah.
Nice work. Okay, so we got to stop for today, but here's what I'm thinking, just to kind of sum up some very important things we did. I mean, obviously we built a core narrative, and that's huge, because you can use that as your guidepost to, is this moment going the way I need my life to go, given what's happened to me? No. I got to make some new decisions. So you've got that guidepost, but we also hit on how emotional it was. I think this was a more self-empathic moment than you've had. Mostly. This is only my third time meeting you. You know better than me.
Right.
But
you're right.
It felt like, just based on what I know about these processes and how this goes, I've never had anything be as empathic to me as what my body was once I understood what it was saying. Good job, body.
Yeah. No, you're right.
So now we're going to transform it. When we're doing power column work, we're going to transform even the symptoms into a message of how have you been not powerful and how do you now need to be powerful right now. No more. Takes a lot of determination.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, this was a lot.
I know.
But it's good. I tend to call power column sessions, they're like 2 years of therapy in one session. That's how it feels to me anyway.
Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm. And they clear out all of the questions that you might have in a normal, quote-unquote, normal therapy process that can actually confuse as much as it describes.
And it did that. I did that. I went through that.
Yep.
And just coming home more confused.
Right. This is where the core narrative, you don't need anything but the core narrative and questioning, am I in power in this moment or not? And what do I need to do to get back in power? Okay. That's it. That's the entire power column right there. It's easier, it's simpler, it's better, and it's much more powerful, which is aptly named. Okay, Antonella, any questions for me before we stop for today?
I don't think so. I'm sure I'll shoot you an email though.
Okay. Well,
along the way.
This is remember, this is a process. But this is actually going very well. We have made huge strides in your understanding of things and the resources that you can now have. When we meet next week, we're going to talk about the concept of action steps and how to get all this information we've gotten from the 3 columns, how to get it enacted best. So let's trade an email or two this week to get you a sense of what that's going to look like. What do you need out of each column? What do you need to know about? What steps do you need to take? And then I want you to remember, after next session, that's not the end point.
Okay.
That's the end point of like our getting you the information, the basic information you need, and then we look at, all right, how do we enact this? Whether just with you or in some kind of resources with me or my system, whatever you need.
Okay, good.
You did great today, and I appreciate you for sharing so openly.
Thank you.
Okay, Antonella, I will see you next week.
Take care.
Okay. Every time I do a power column session, I end up feeling the same thing, and it's just wow. And what I love about it is it's exactly what I experienced in my own experience of inventing the power column, of realizing, oh my God, there was so much I could have gotten to in therapy if I was thinking about this in the right way and it had been brought to me in the right way. What I love about the core narrative is it keeps you so focused on the things that really, really, really matter. What describes the suffering you? You have other parts of you, but what describes the suffering you? What happened to you? What was the impact on you? And then, even though we start off broad, what are you going to do about it? It starts to guide you through a way to live a life differently. And I think that everybody can see there's a difference in Antonella's face from the beginning of the session where she's feeling that level 3 doubt to the end of the session where she feels like she knows more who she is and has some very, very powerful, to use the right pun, tools that can help her. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and we will get back to you personally.